I've just filmed the most amazing video and unfortunately I didn't press go. So I've been talking to myself for the last 90 seconds. Hello and welcome to day 8 of Vlogmas, and I've made myself a conifer door wreath. Now part of the reason why I've made a conifer door wreath is I've noticed on some of my favourite YouTube channels, the ladies who've been decorating for Christmas have been using what I think is probably artificial conifer, which you might also know as cypress, or here in the UK as Leylandii. And it's quite often used because it's a fast growing tree and is used as hedging around people's gardens, but can be a problem because it grows a little bit too fast and does need a lot of cutting back and management. So I've seen these kinds of wreaths on Pine and Prospect Home, which is Andrea's channel, Farmhouse on Boone, which is a lady called Lisa, and also Sarah from She Holds Dearly. And I'm reasonably sure that all those wreaths are actually artificial. And I've seen some quite skinny garlanding done in the same kind of conifer. So that was my inspiration this year for a very simple look door wreath. I will add a little bit of ribbon embellishment on it. And as we get closer to Christmas and things quieten down, I may well put some trimmings and decorations on it as well. So if you fancy making your own door wreath, I will leave a link to the video I made last year, which will take you step by step how to make this sort of door wreath. It hasn't got any moss, it's actually got a conifer base, and then I've applied conifer over the top, but you can use any kind of greenery you like. I think last year I used bay and berried ivy. The one thing I would say is don't put holly in your wreaths, it's too prickly to work with. And if you want to make a fancy souped up version of a wreath, I've also got a video playbook which I'll leave a link to my shop section on my website, and you can have a look at that if you're interested. And that's a masterclass that takes you through mossing up your wreath, adding greenery, wiring up your decorations, pine cones, orange slices, and also adding fresh flowers as well. I used roses in that wreath when I made the video. So next job is to hang my wreath up. Now the problem I've got is my front door has this glass panel in it, and I've got a little hook above the glass panel, but when I hang my wreath on the hook, the wreath just looks too high in relation to my front door. I want it hanging down a little bit lower. So I could use one of those over the door hooks. I'll see if I can find one and link it if that's something that would suit you. But I don't want to put the loop over, because you end up with a bit of metal over the top, and I don't like the way it looks on my particular front door. So what I thought I would do is, as I was thinking of hanging making a simple bow over the top, that I would use some extra ribbon to create a hanger, and I would hang the ribbon from the hook and then have the wreath hanging down underneath, and that would just make it sit a little bit lower on my front door, and it would just look a little bit more pleasing to the eye. So this is the beautiful ribbon I've got. So I'm not going with the reds, and I haven't even got a wire edged ribbon. And I've been inspired here by the ribbons that Sarah used over on her channel, She Holds Dearly, which I think was probably last year or perhaps like several years ago. And it's satin ribbon, and it's a soft, I don't know, a sort of cappuccino-y kind of colour. I used this ribbon when I was making door wreaths with friends a few days ago, and they kept referring to it as the pink ribbon, but I don't see it as being pink at all. So what I'm going to do is decide where I want to have my ribbon. So I'm going to stick with this little hook section here as being the top, because that was the way I made it. And I'm going to wrap the ribbon around the wreath to give myself a sort of a bandage effect. I'm going to go over a couple of times and giving myself enough excess in the tails to be able to tie a bow and also to have some tails hanging down as well. So I think that's probably about right. I always keep my ribbon on the reel until I'm ready to cut length, because I find if you cut the ribbon to length to begin with, you never quite know how much you're going to need. So I'm going to tie a half knot just to get my ribbon tails coming out horizontally. And then to keep my bow horizontal, what I do is I make a loop here, and perhaps this might be how you tie your shoelaces. It's not how I tie mine though. And make another loop on the other side and then tie the two loops together. And before you pull really tightly, I'm just going to adjust the ribbon so the tails fall down, and then I can start to fill out the loops a little bit and just play with it to make sure I've got the right proportion that suits me in terms of size of my bow and length of my tails. So that the loops are a little bit too short for me, too small. So I'm going to loosen off a little bit and just adjust and play with it. In fact, I think I've tied that a little bit too tight. So let's start with a bigger loop there. Tie it in a knot. That's better. I've kind of gone over large now. So what I will then do is make sure my tails hang down. And then I need to pull the bow really sharply so it holds. So I'm going to loosen, pull on the tails, and then do a series of sharp tugs on the loops. Get it to be exactly how I want it to be. So I think that looks pretty good. So just a very ordinary, simple bow, but with my loops lying horizontally and my tails hanging down. So this ribbon here I've already cut at an angle. That just helps it stop fraying. So I'm going to cut this one at an angle as well. And I might keep the ribbon slightly different lengths just to add a bit of rhythm, a bit of movement. And then I shall take another piece of ribbon and turn over my door wreath. And I've got a length of ribbon here. It's probably a little bit longer than my arm. I'll fold it in half and then slide that underneath the ribbon that I originally wrapped around my wreath. Pull out the loop, feed the tails through it and pull to secure. And then I shall tie a knot in the top. So what I'm going to do here, actually I'll neaten that off with both ends together, and then I'll tie a knot and hang that over the hook on my door. So let's see how that works out. So that's me and my properly positioned door wreath on my front door. If you've enjoyed this video, do give it a like and share in the comments how you like hanging your Christmas door wreath. Do you do a ribbon, just leave it on a hook or a nail on your front door, or perhaps you use one of those over the door hooks? That's all from me for now, and I'll see you next time.